Welcome to IT in Motion, where we make autonomous IT entertaining and informative. My name is Sun.
And I'm Josh. We're your hosts. Today we're going to be talking to Gary Slebrch.
Everybody give it up for Gary Slebrch!
Yay!
That's right. Just for you, Gary. But we didn't have makeup for you, I will say. I know you're so disappointed because last time you got all the glitz and the glam.
I did, didn't I? It was fabulous.
And it was only green M&Ms.
And Snicker bars, don't forget that.
And Snicker bars, that's right, that's right. Hey, Gary, thanks for joining us today. Why don't you introduce yourself to ourselves and our listeners?
Well, my name is Gary Slebrch. I work for General Dynamics. I work in the federal civilian practice, and I'm in charge of the Atlas solution for GDIT.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. We were hoping to actually tease out, so folks get to understand who you are a little bit better, some of your hobbies and so on via game. It's kind of a fill in the blank type of question. I don't know if Josh, you want to go off and shoot off the first one.
All right, I'll ask you the first one. This is an easy one. The animal I like best is blank.
A penguin.
Penguin. Is that a Linux reference?
It is.
Absolutely. High five.
Hey.
Awesome.
All right. And the worst TV show ever was?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say, going back to...
Don't say Lost.
I'm not going to say Lost, but it rhymes with moss. I would say Alice from back in the day in the 70s.
Oh.
All right.
Can't say I watched that one. What was the... should I even ask the question what it's about?
You should take this afternoon off and go find out.
And watch the worst TV show ever? Why will I regret it?
No, you'll find it entertaining.
Okay.
Entertaining for all the wrong reasons.
Can I amend my answer?
Sure.
Any of the Survivors or The Bachelor or Bachelorette, any one of those shows.
Any one of those. All right.
Okay. My wife would probably disagree with you, but okay.
All right. Next question. I wish I could meet blank from blank by the blank.
I would like to meet Keanu Reeves from John Wick. Probably at the beach.
All right.
At the beach.
Yeah, I like the beach.
What are you guys holding hands by the shore, or what are y'all doing together?
Well, watching the sunset. It's Point Break. You gotta know that. Oh, is that? I know that's before your time.
Sun doesn't set. All right.
Sun never sets
shining
over here.
That's right. All right. Next one. Blank and pepper make a great seasoning pair.
I would say traditionally salt.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not exciting, but.
Yeah.
But it works. I mean, salt and pepper are the thing on our table because of a French king like 400 or 500 years ago. So
really,
you're in good company with royalty there.
I was thinking about the 80s group, Salt and Pepper.
Yeah. I mean, I like lemon pepper from Wingstop. That's right. I said it.
Well, I like cayenne pepper, but that with pepper is a little over the top.
Ooh, okay. Fair enough.
All right. The next one. No blank. I am your blank.
Oh, that's a good one. No sun. And you can fill in the rest of it.
Oh, God. It should have been Luke. I am your... No.
Nope, sorry.
I'm not saying it because it's a different kind of sun. It's... Don't sun me, all right? You can't sun the sun over here. Excellent. All right, the next one. The coolest place I've flow ridden or... indoor surfing is?
That would be on Royal Caribbean's Oasis class ships.
What?
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
So on the Oasis class Royal Caribbean, they have a flow rider, which is you simulate surfing. So you get to go on there and you get to surf all day, do some tricks, get some sun, do a little bit of work between rides. So it's all good.
How many cruises have you been on last year? What's the count? What's the count this year?
I would prefer not to discuss that because I work remote.
Sure.
That's what we call it these days.
So when you're doing the flow riding on the ship, is there like a line that's pretty long, or is it pretty fast, or how's that go down?
There is advanced riding, which is what I typically do. We do tricks, and then we have everybody can join, and then that line gets really, really long. So we usually just peace out and go to the casino.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Wow.
We'll have cocktails. Either one.
Awesome. And you told us before this conversation that you've actually been working at GDIT for quite a long time. Can you tell us and our listeners a little bit about your career history, whether it was before GDIT or even just from the start of that?
I'll give you the whole history. So when I graduated college in 91, I went to work for a nonprofit and then went from there to a benefits consulting firm for a couple of years. And then I went to one of the big 6 accounting firms, which is Coopers & Lybrand. Mm-hmm. And then I went to GDIT, and I've been there for 27 years.
So it's home.
It's home.
What did you do? What have you done there? I mean,
so I started I went into the consulting group when I started as a staff consultant, got up to director level, and then I switched over from the commercial side to the federal side. And I've been in the federal side since, which has been a blessing.
I'm sure. What areas of study or work have been the most useful as you've matured into solutions architect?
That's a good question. Well, see, for me as a systems integrator, you have to know. My dad used to say, "You can't be a mile wide and a mile deep," and I said, "Well, why not?"
Yeah.
So
he wants to do it all.
Yeah, because my thing is, as a consultant in my previous life, the more wide you were and more deep you were, the higher, they could bill you, the more money you made. So, right. And the bigger the bonuses. So as a geek, you want to know as much as humanly possible. And I get bored easily. So I'd like to learn new technologies. The more valuable you are to yourself and to others, because you can't take knowledge away from somebody.
Right.
So that's the one thing I have always appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I guess, we were talking prior to the filming here about ChatGPT and systems integrators. And so like generative AI is becoming pretty common, right? Between, these large language models like ChatGPT, GPT-4, some of the diffusion-based models like Stable Diffusion or DALL-E.
Wow. In fact, did you know all that? Is amazing because most people I talk to have no idea what that is.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these different types of AI systems that are out there. They work differently, produce different sorts of outcomes. So kind of how is that impacting your world? How do you think it's going to impact the broader world?
So I have a very unique view on this. So as a systems integrator, we have to respond to the government in terms of requests for proposals. So they have their requirements. So what agencies are doing now would say, hey, here's a request for proposal. A lot of, unmotivated or overworked solution architects would go, hey, put that into ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. It gives them a outline or a draft of how to do this. But then I've seen other companies and friends I've talked to that said, hey, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm like, well, you realize that they're going to know that came from ChatGPT because they're not stupid. They're just going to take what you did, put it in there, and voila, there's the thing. Now, do I think that's a good way to validate your solution? I think that's a good way. But it's like bad information in, bad information out.
Sure.
So
right.
If somebody just says, hey, this is the most popular thing, they go, oh, this must be reality. So it's cloudy outside, but if I say it's sunny and everybody else is saying sunny, then you're going to think it's sunny.
Right.
No pun intended. You'd like that machine, don't you?
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite.
Oh, I can tell. But from a ChatGPT is like a lot of solution architects looking at this is, can I make my job easier?
Right.
But it can't replace it. So that's my point of it.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to, do you think that this is more of an enabler for folks to learn more, you leveraging ChatGPT and other AI tools, or is it more of a tool that will just replace?
Well, for example, I always tell people as a geek, as a developer, or as an engineer, you have your regular brain and you have your Google brain. Now you have your ChatGPT brain. Because now you can say, hey, I can't figure out how to do this one particular thing. Put it in. If it comes back with an answer,
now
perfect.
You know how.
It's either you know how, at least it's a starting point.
Sure.
Because sometimes you're just like, I have no idea. So that's what I like about it right now is I can validate a theory or for lack of a better term, a guess.
Yeah.
Say, hey, will this work? Or hypothesis. Right. Yeah. So that's what I like to do is just find out, hey, am I right? I'm in the ballpark. If not, then if I'm completely clueless, well, I might as well just, I have nothing to lose.
Definitely.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. In addition to learning through ChatGPT, experience, and all this stuff, you and I have talked a little bit in the past about how kind of learning styles have changed. What have you observed there?
Oh, so this is a very hot button for me. Given over the last 10, 15 years, no one reads anymore. Well,
Right.
in fact, some people I don't think know how to read.
Thanks, Audible.
So, so that's the funny thing is everybody wants to watch videos. So I learn visually. So if somebody talks in the background, I can go, okay. But I kind of want to see it. Like when I do like put something together, I want to read the instructions. Like, oh, how do I get from here to here? There's something missing.
Right.
Well, if I see a video, oh, that's how I do it. So I see that more and more. And now from what we do from my business, if we're troubleshooting or doing an installation or anything, we record everything. So like, in fact, we had a nuance pop up with one of the new power packs from ScienceLogic, and the engineers like, we can't replicate it. I'm like, well, guess what? Here's all the logs, but here's a video of every single step I did from installation throughout the whole process. So then they can see what I'm seeing without, doing a WebEx. They can just watch a video. Now it's usually 5 to 10 minutes, but it helps them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because you share that knowledge pretty much with a community of people, right? And you and I have talked a little bit about kind of the need for communities in general.
Yes.
Right? Tell us a little bit about the importance of that and why is it so important to you?
See, my dad has instilled a lot of things on me. One of them being, if you have all the information, you're going to be bugged to death. Yeah. If you share the information, everybody benefits. And I think from my perspective, I like to educate people. I want people to educate me. I've always wanted a boss that I can go, hey, here's my problem. And my first boss ever, he was a super geek. So I was like, Jeff, what's going on? I'm having so much problem. He's like, oh, it's this, this, and this. I'm like, wow, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm like, how did you know that? He's like, I just do. And then from that point, I wanted to share that information with other people. Because if I can help you, you can help me. Sure. We all benefit.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, for example, if I'll use ScienceLogic as an example. When I first heard of ScienceLogic, this was over a decade ago, it's like, what do they do?
Right.
And because it wasn't name recognition. But as we got better, as ScienceLogic got better in terms of growing its marketing and all that fun stuff, we got to have a community and say, hey, you know about this? You know about this? So what I like to do is, and we do in a lot of other companies, I sit on a customer advisory board. So we get to say, hey, based on our experiences, what our customers are looking for, here's some recommendations for your product.
Yes.
So for your product, support, engineering, everybody gets the benefit. But if you just keep that information to yourself, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you folks as a community can help organizations identify priorities that should be prioritized to the top and the right kind of design for how things are designed and give continuous feedback to ensure that these new features are actually solving problems for you on the field. That's the value of that partnership.
One of the things and I say this every time I talk about when I do something for ScienceLogic in terms of videos, is you guys give us, ScienceLogic gives us the ability to provide feedback.
Yeah.
And that's one thing a lot of companies don't. And you're receptive of it and you say, okay, we may not understand what point of view are you coming from? Because we don't see it. Engineering never sees, or developers never see, our use case. They just go, hey, I was told to do this and why would I do that? And we go, well, here's context.
Yeah.
Because context is key.
And then you understand it. You build the right thing.
Yes, because we're just like, well, here's a pretty chart. Okay, no one's going to use it. One of the things that you have is Insights, which is coming out, the latest and greatest. That was fantastic. The first version was like, oh, that's informative, but it needed that extra level.
Yeah.
Extra something. So we provide feedback, and the very next release, our feedback was incorporated. You know how amazing that is for, a user or an administrator is like, oh, they are listening.
We did it just for you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And the rest of us. But
yeah, I mean, I've had that experience, right? I got some open source email client on my phone, right? And it was interacting with my smartwatch in a weird way. And I donated, whatever the recommended donation was. And I emailed the developer and I said, hey, it'd be really great if it did this. And I'm like, I don't know if it can do that. And then he thought about it a day later. He's like, hey, I implemented a change. Can you download it? I was like, holy cow. Like a few days later, right, he had solved the problem. And it was because we had that ongoing dialogue.
And that's the thing is it's the dialogue, which is key. Like,
and that understanding of each other's situations, right?
Yeah, because I'm not going to, from my perspective, I'm usually responding to a need that I have or a customer's or both. And what I want to do is be receptive to the engineering developers perspective and go, hey, listen, you're asking for the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really realistic, but I'm like, well, like this morning I talked to somebody in the building saying, hey, this would be great if you guys could do it. And he's like, no, then do everything this way. Then you don't have the problem.
It's
like,
the workaround.
It's the workaround. But at least I know a path to go.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and that sort of like collaboration and community, I think, is something as a society we understand, but for some reason we get into, companies and organizations, we tend to forget. We have all kinds of institutions, right? Think about in science, the peer review process, papers getting published. That's all about building community with a knowledge base and propagating it through time. The idea of copyrights and patents, it's about incentivizing people to take these things that they create, putting them out in the public. They get a certain amount of time that they can take advantage of it, but then society gets richer as a whole because they not only shared it, but they also shared how it works in the case of things like patents. And so it is a really interesting thing, right? Building that community, building that knowledge base is something we know at a very high level, but we forget when we get into our smaller groups.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you guys have done here, which brings back the community, is the EAP program.
Yeah. And shout out to Sun here. That's his work.
Oh, shucks, guys, come on now.
Is
this the cheering here?
Honestly, it's I think for me personally, I feel like organizations do need to emphasize on community because it's about learning from one another, right? It's about partnering together. It's about solving problems on both sides. And I think one of the difficulties of actually creating a community this day and age is more so creating that culture.
Yes.
And driving people to the right places, because right now those places are websites, right? So driving to them to the websites and finding ways to give them immediate value. Because if they're going to that website and they're not getting immediate value, you think they're going to go back there again?
No.
Absolutely not.
Well, it's the 5-second rule. If you go to a site and doesn't give you what you want in 5 seconds, I'm out.
But then everybody asks for it. Everybody still wants it. They know that they've gotten value from things similar to that before, but it's almost like everything needs to be perfect in order for someone to really do it, right? Well, that's how it feels sometimes, right?
I would agree. And from one of the things I've seen over the last, say, 7 to 10 years from a ScienceLogic perspective is when we first talked to ScienceLogic, I was like, do you guys have any videos? I mean, can I talk to somebody? Can I talk to other customers? And you guys were like, oh yeah, we have videos. And I'm like, where? Oh, they're all internal. I'm like, well, that doesn't help me. No, I understand why you have internal videos versus external videos, but I'm like, I'm one of your biggest advocates. So why don't show me what works, what doesn't work? I'm not going to hold you accountable for, I'm not hold you responsible for it not working, but I need to know. I'm not going to promote something that doesn't work the way it's intended.
Right.
And that's one of the things that you guys give us the ability to provide that back to you quickly. And then you guys make changes. And that's why the whole event Insights was a dramatic change, because we're like, this is so much better after a simple, call with you all. So that was one of the nice things.
Shout outs to Brian, Harding,
Yes.
Shreya, and Rashid. Well done, guys.
Yeah. Golf clap. Don't you have a golf clap on that machine?
No, I don't. Just a full applause over here, man. Just a full load, No, I think at the end of the day, it's great that we were able to partner with you, but with respect, most companies have hundreds of customers. So partnering with one or two customers, it's only a piece of the scope of really the feedback that we want to get. And that's why, for me, I feel like communities are really important, because even, the little guy who might not get the attention, right? Because they're a smaller company on the come up, let's say. They still want a voice too. And maybe their voice is actually really valid, right? Many times there are. So there must be a platform where those folks can also continue to engage, because who knows, tomorrow their company might blow up. Look at Amazon, right? They used to be a bookstore, an online bookstore. They blew up in 20 years. Who knew? I bet you when they were an online bookstore, there was a couple of folks that brushed Jeff by the side, and they probably regret it to this day.
Well, he's probably bought them by now.
But my point is like, you want to hear from all of your customers, the breadth of not just your customer base, but also the market as a whole.
I agree.
And that is really important. That's the whole point of the community. Community doesn't have to be just your customers, just your users. It could be your prospects. It could be anybody who's interested or works within or in the orbit of your type of systems. If organizations are able to create that community or allow their users and members to build their own communities within that community.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That is the true beauty, because it shouldn't be managed by that companies, right?
Correct.
It could be somewhat supervised. I mean, we don't want, crazy riots to occur from very controversial conversations on a thread, right? I think this has been a great conversation, Gary. Do you have any advice for any of our listeners, perhaps whether it be in the federal space or even just IT organizations in general? What can help them move the needle forward to prioritize things correctly, design correctly? Any advice you have for them?
My only advice, and this crosses commercial, federal, doesn't matter, is listen to your customer. A lot of software vendors don't listen to our customer. At times, we have some of our programs, they listen, they hear, but they don't listen.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they don't really know what the problem is. They're like, oh, my customer's not complaining, everything's great. I'm like, well, did you hear what they're saying? Did you listen? Because I heard something completely different than what you heard.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's a problem. I'm like, well, they don't seem to be upset. I'm like, they are. So
yeah.
I always tell people, you need to listen, then speak. I have a lot of friends who will just cut you off halfway through your responding.
Pointed at me as soon as he was like, cut you off. I get the gist here, Gary.
See, Josh is quiet. I'm just saying.
He's a good listener. You should learn from him.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
No, I think that's very sound advice. And also to add on to that a little bit, it's sometimes you hear different things from different parts of your customer. So it's like finding the right users who might be using your area of their product and listening to that person, because different people might have different opinions depending on who you ask in your customer base. Right?
Yeah, and their role.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So anyways, Gary, it's been such a wonderful conversation with you today.
We're not done, are we?
I mean, we don't have to be.
Oh, I can talk for hours with you.
Can you?
Well, mostly Josh, because
I'll interrupt you. You know me.
Yeah.
Rebel with a cause. All right. I got a cause though. Okay. I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
We're working on it. Okay. Well, Gary, thanks for coming out. It was great to talk with you. And
it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thanks, Gary.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode. We will see you next time. Take care. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. We're hosted on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and many other apps. We release episodes on a regular cadence, and you can check out all of our episodes at ScienceLogic.com/podcasts.